Welcome back, Trekkie friends, to Hailing Frequencies and the good, the bad, and the batshit for Lower Decks Season 4, Episode 10, the finale. I'm very excited. I'm also one of your hosts, Stu.
And I'm your other host, Alastair. Stu, what is up?
Oh, what is up is my spirits. Sort of, after watching today's Lower Decks. I'm also slightly on a downer because it's the last one of the series.
The last one of this series, it's gone by so quickly. Overall, it's been a really fun series, though. I've thoroughly enjoyed season 4 of Lower Decks, and thankfully, whatever else we have to say about this episode, it certainly leaves me looking forward to season 5, which seems like a good moment to give viewers our regular reminder.
Oh, yes, we do need to go to a red alert because we'll be discussing spoilers, of course, for Lower Decks Season 4, Episode 10, Old Friends, New Planets. So, yes, thank you for the reminder there. Always good to get a reminder. So, it was an interesting episode. Before we get into our usual good, bad, and batshit, there's two things I want to query about the episode. So this might have been happening for a long time now, but I noticed watching it on Amazon Prime today, it's got like, not a description of the episode, but it's got like tags. It's like animation, and it had kids.
You're
It's not a kid
kidding.
show.
How did I not
It's not.
spot that? Oh,
I
wow. That's
I
bad.
only saw that
Yeah.
today. So I don't know if
Par-
that's like on all of them or
I don't know whether it's Paramount or Amazon. Probably Amazon decides these things. Amazon, that is lazy, really lazy. It's even worse because you've taken the effort to add it in when it's not appropriate for it to be there, rather than just making the mistake from the out. Get that out of there. This is not a helpful descriptor. Yeah, good catch, Stu.
yeah. Well, I love animation, and I particularly love adult animation. That sounds wrong.
I'm
No,
gonna digress. I'm gonna digress just for a second here. I thought that you were about to say that there was some problem with the sort of episode preview text, where it gives you like a sentence to what the episode is about. I remember that a long time ago, uh, the my wife and I still laugh about this day because it was so bad. On Amazon Prime, Amazon Prime had Voyager, the full season of Voyager at the time, and their description for. Do you remember the name of the episode of Voyager where Tuvok investigates a killing on the ship, and it turns out that there's sort of a element of Bajoran mysticism where the killer is being directed from afar to carry out these attacks. Hold on, if I finish the story, it might come back to you. So there's this episode, and the Amazon Prime, like a couple of lines of text for it was literally, this is a if only a slight paraphrasing. Tuvok investigates a murder in which he is the main suspect. Now, the twist of the episode is that you do not realize until the climactic scenes that Tuvok has been involved in these attacks and is being directed outside of his control to carry them out. And Amazon Prime just slapped this descriptor on it, which basically spoiled almost the entire thing before you'd even pressed play. So I'm at least glad that Lower Decks had not put some sort of massive spoiler in their descriptor text this week.
so that episode, yes, it wasn't Bajoran mysticism. It was, and I'll use the word allegedly, Native American mysticism.
Oh, no, was it? How could I forget that?
It was because Chakotay was unconscious, and B'Elanna used his spirit wheel to try and guide his soul back to his body or something. And he was communicating through
Uh-huh.
that. And yeah, I can't remember the name of that episode. It was a it was a Chakotay heavy episode, so it's kind of not
No,
standout.
we must be thinking of different episodes here, Stu. This is definitely like a Tuvok central episode. Hold on, I'm gonna get the name of it for viewers are probably shouting at the screen at this point. Investigates.
I'm sure it's the same episode because I know Tuvok ended up attacking other crew members, but because he'd been taken over by the alien as well. I think Chakotay's had been displaced, and Chakotay was taking over crew members, trying to prevent the ship from going back. The alien had taken over Tuvok and was trying to get the ship back to this nebula or whatever it was.
Okay, so I think the episode is season 7, episode 4, Repression. Security Officer Tuvok investigates a strange series of attacks on Voyager directed at former Maquis members.
Yeah, no, totally different episode. I'm thinking of. My apologies. Oh,
Yeah. The culprit's identity takes everyone by surprise, even Tuvok. Well, it doesn't take Amazon Prime viewers by surprise with that descriptor on it. That's for sure. So, anyway, I've dragged us way off track. So, what was the
well,
other
I'm
thing
not
that you were
saying.
wanting to chat about before we get onto the good and
Well,
the bad, Stu?
what just to be clear, I'm not saying that Amazon Prime haven't done spoilers for Lower Decks. I don't normally read the actual description of the episode. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to mention was right at the beginning, you've got a previously on Lower Decks, and now the continuation. I want to know who it is who did the voices for that. Because that was all the
Hmm.
lines. Then they showed like clips, and there was now the continuation. Because it sounds incredibly like John Krasinski to me from the American Office. Oh, I mean, he's been in lots of
Interesting.
things, but
I
yeah,
didn't notice that name floating around in credits, but
it
maybe I
wasn't it
missed.
wasn't in
Right, okay.
credits. It might have been Jerry O'Connell, possibly, because he
Yeah,
didn't
I could see
sound
that.
massively dislike him. Sorry, light was in the wrong place.
You're all good now. Oh,
My green screen's gone off. Oh,
yeah.
anyway, um, yeah. So
You're
I
mostly
was
Starship.
that's it. So yeah, I wasn't yeah, so I wasn't sure who'd done the voice for that. Hmm. Anyway, let's get on with what we thought was good about this episode then. Old friends, new planets. What did you like?
Loved. I think most Star Trek fans watching this episode will have really enjoyed the original cast reunion for Nova Squadron. That was a real treat. However, one thing that might not have hit the same level of appreciation straight away was that I really enjoyed seeing a younger Mariner in that flashback. I know it was like a very brief, just a brief moment with her, but there was something very cool. It's not too often that we get character flashbacks to sort of before their time in the show for our lower decks crew. So it was just awesome to see like young, eager, enthusiastic cadet Mariner in her academy days, even if it was only for a second or two. So really enjoyed that as well. Talking of Mariner, future Mariner, or as she is in this episode, present day Mariner, referring to the Genesis device as GD and treating it as her first officer. It's a source of much amusement this episode. So enjoyed that. And acting Captain Boimler. I really enjoyed acting Captain Boimler. I felt like taking characters that we love and putting them in the captain's chair has happened. I was about to say with New Trek more, but that's being direct Discovery quite a bit, and I think that for me that's had mixed results. Some of that felt more natural and sort of warranted than others. But yeah, acting Captain Boimler, it just made a lot of sense for the situation. It made a lot of sense for his character. I just thought that that was a really cool use of a moment to give, like, give someone the chair that really worked. So thumbs up for that from me. And I like the setup for Tendy for next season as well. That's my final point on my good list. What about you, Stu?
So yes, a little bit of crossovers with yours. I've got Captain Boimler written down, and I just thought absolutely nailed it. Um, there's that whole that phrase, isn't there? It's a quote from a movie. We've had this date from since the beginning, or from no, what is it? Oh, anyway. I know what I mean, and that's the important thing.
Time to keep your
My
appointment with the captain's chair, Mr. Boimler, yeah.
yeah, um, yeah, my top number one good moment, Will Wheaton, world's nicest guy, and just an absolute joy to see, to hear him back. But yeah, that seeing the whole and getting the original actor back to play Sito, and now we've met Josh as well. Of course, we hadn't met Josh.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
so previously. Other ones I've got when the Genesis device goes off, and the nebula is being converted into planet Locarno. You see a covert starburst happening. I just thought that was a lovely little thing. Lovely little Easter egg right in there. And the other one, I've even fished out. It's one of my favorite designs is the Steam Runner class
Yeah.
from 2373, first introduced in the movie First Contact. I just think it's a beautiful design of ship. Um, really, really nice, really kind of unique, but also familiar, and what have you. So to see it taking center stage on screen like that, just an absolute thing of beauty for me. Mariner did refer to it as an old bucket of bolts. It would have been less than 10 years old at that point. Not that I want to nitpick, as we know. Anyway.
Somewhere there's an Ed doing a round of applause for you, Stu.
Somewhere. In infinite universes, there's something happening everywhere. But yeah, there was just so much to pick from this. That I mean, Lower Decks is always a joy to watch. But with every show, there is room for improvement, which brings us nicely to the bad. What didn't work for you in this episode?
I'm going to take a quick beat to have a quick bad rant about something that you just referenced there, Stu, which is
Ooh.
I totally agree with you that it was such a joy to see Will Wheaton in Star Trek again. We got to see him in Star Trek not too long ago at the close of season 2 of Picard, right? He gets his little scene.
No, sorry, season 2.
Yes, and actually,
I'll
that
hand
that
in my
Freud
badge
that
now.
that no, I think that's that perfectly illustrates that Freudian memory slip there. Actually illustrates my point, which is Paramount, you cowards. If you must do something more with the next generation cast, which I'm not convinced is necessary, however, if you choose to do it, bring Will back with other main cast members and tie that character's story off in a satisfactory, complete manner that makes sense with the plot that we have access to. Not a deleted scene, not something where he's on his own with another character from the episode. Bring him back, give Wesley a proper send off from the next generation. Okay, rant over on that. I couldn't let it go, Stu. Yeah.
No, no, I hear you on it. But to me, his story isn't over. Now we know he's a traveler. We know that the travelers and the Watchers are kind of they're one and the same or part of the same organization, perhaps. If Star Trek Legacy does actually happen, well, we know that Q is back. Could be Q versus the Watchers or Q versus the Travelers.
I am definitely up for a Wesley return as a traveler in Legacy, or there's so much room, thankfully, at the moment in Star Trek that wherever he turns up in that guise will be a treat, I think. But I just feel like he deserves that specifically for his time in the Next Generation. There's been a couple of big opportunities to give him the end to his story in that, and it's not it's not come together in either of them. So I'm desperate to see a bit of interaction with the original cast and just a much more concise, tying off of that, at least that time for the characters' adventures, because I think there's a few people who might pop up again from Next Generation in the future, but I feel like season 3 of Picard tied everything off for them in terms of their relationship with the original show, and it just feels like Wesley is not getting that same conclusion. So please,
Yeah.
and the other my only bad thing actually noted here is something that we have been keeping an eye on for a few weeks now, which is no explanation for T'Lyn's absence during the several episodes that she is not in this season, straight after an episode that makes a very big point of the celebration of her choosing to stay and be aboard the Cerritos. Yeah, that doesn't work for me. It would have been nice to have some reason mentioned in the last couple of episodes as to why she'd been absent for a few, particularly after the episode that made such a big celebration of her choosing to remain aboard. I just feel like it's not. It wouldn't have been that hard to do, and it just feels a bit sort of loose endy, having her disappear for a while and then reappear for a couple of episodes and just be it.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. Mine is more about the entire arc. I mean, it's kind of, I suppose it's a bit more specific to this episode, but about the whole arc with Nick Lucano. We've had this thing with the mystery ship destroying ships. Then we found out, oh no, they're transporting people away. But we've had no real build up. We've just had this underlying thing, this undercurrent happening throughout, and then suddenly bang in this, all right, we had the big reveal at the end of episode 9 that it was Nick Lucano behind it all. But then we've had like information dump in episode 10. I think they could have spread that out. They could have done an entire series build up to it. It would have made it harder to keep everything secret, and I get that. But those of us who want to work things out, let us work things out. Don't keep everything such a secret that it's, it would have been impossible before the end of episode 9 to have worked out that Nick Lucano might be coming back. That would have been an absolute impossibility. So yeah, I just think
I totally agree. I totally agree with you, Stu. Yeah.
Yeah,
If
Picard season 3 did it really well with the book. They dropped lots of hints. They built up information. It was stepped. It wasn't just like running along on one level, then boom, it's up here. It was more ramped or stepped.
Absolutely, and the Borg were a much more obvious choice for that. Whereas I don't think anyone, well, very few, if they're being honest, with a bingo card of who was carrying out these attacks after the first couple episodes of this season would have gone, yes, Nick Locarno from the Next Generation, obviously, and I
Yeah.
think that the pacing from there on doesn't help it at all. Um, One thing I wonder if it might have been a good compromise and just kind of good for the the drama of a few of the different stories that are unfolding at this point in the show is whether it could have been a good cliffhanger, and whether just one more episode of resolution at the start of the next season that gave them a little bit more time, not loads more, but a little bit more to do more with Locarno and his fleet, and the tension of them as a villain, and just having a little bit more time to breathe in the way that the plot developed. And I think I would have quite liked to see like a real moment of peril for Mariner at this juncture, where she has to confront the fact that she might actually get killed, or she's in a position where she might have to sacrifice herself, having just had the epiphany in the previous episode that that the realization that she wants to live and wants to embrace life again, and we have this this motif, this theme at the start of the previous episode with her having a bit of a death wish, and I think it would have felt quite good dramatically, and I thought as well for in terms of Captain Freeman. I thought there could have been a little bit more like, that's my daughter about the peril. I understand that she's in command and that it's not necessarily uh, you might not want to dwell on it for some reasons, but I just thought like this could have maybe worked quite nicely as a cliffhanger that gave the Locarno story more time to develop, served as a good moment of turnabout for Mariner's character in terms of being thrown from one extreme to the other, and the drama that could come with that, and just make it feel a little bit more like high stakes, like less sort of rushed. Yeah,
Yeah, from self-sabotage to self-sacrifice.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that kind of cliffhanger. Absolutely. Yeah, I'd have been right on, but I'd have been screaming at the TV, of course. There'd have been a cliffhanger like that. Um,
Because with the
but
Genesis device, the sort of the idea of what the Genesis device is, I really sort of, for a moment there, we've just, Stu and I have just come from filming one of our Frasier things where I was complaining about not getting what I expected when plots and things unfold. And when Mariner had the Genesis device with her in Lower Decks here, just in terms of the themes of her death wish and her embracing life again, and what the Genesis device is and how we've seen it used in Star Trek before. And I really thought like they're going to have some very tense moment with her. And I thought it was going to be very high drama and possibly a season cliffhanger, with her being put in a position where she had to potentially was about to have to sacrifice herself, or we got a misleading ending where we thought she had sacrificed herself for some reason, and then it just didn't, it didn't sort of even really cut particularly close to that in the end, which was interesting.
mm, if Genesis is truly life from death, then I must return here. Yeah. Let's move on to, with that quote in mind, let's move on to our batshit picks. And Lower Decks,
uh,
there's always a deep well to draw from on this, isn't there?
yeah, there's never any shortage. I'm going to let you start us off this time, Stu. I must admit, I didn't actually have anything that jumped out at me as it sometimes does for batshit for Lower Decks this week. So I'll let you kick us off. I'm sure you've spotted something truly
Okay,
batshit here.
I've got three.
Oh wow, okay. You're making up for
Three.
my lack of batshitness this week.
I'll save my biggest for last. But I thought the whole Wrath of Khan almost remake was definitely up there for me. The music was down pat, the shots as they're flying through the nebula, absolutely, chef's kiss stuff. And little side note, that's not why I'm wearing this uniform today. That is pure coincidence. So our really eagle-eyed viewers will have noticed that I'm wearing uniforms in order of their star date. And it just so happens that this week happens to be the best.
Oh.
There we go. Um, so yeah, so the Wrath of Khan stuff, the Mark Twain resolution and the engineers.
I believe I didn't think to mention it before. I love the Mark Twain resolution. Yes, that should have been in my good list. Never mind my batshit list. Yeah.
You can put it in your batshit now. Quick,
Oh,
nobody will notice.
yes.
Nobody will notice. It's fine. But my absolute top batshit moment, it made me laugh so hard. Miglamo fluffing his down. That was just, oh, absolutely hilarious. It's like, it's so embarrassing. It's just absolutely crazy. Yeah. And then
I,
lost.
yeah, I mean, I suddenly, yeah, my one point that I had for bad shit, does indeed pale in comparison to your picks here, but I did like the final plot twist with the Ferengi Genesis device modifications. That I got a good laugh at that.
The
Nick's
cancellation being
yeah,
behind the paywall.
Nick's despair at the paywall was perfect. So yeah, I'll go with that for this week.
That almost made my batshit list. That
Oh, I'm
really
glad you
did.
didn't
I
put it in there.
liked it.
I would have had nothing. Yeah. A great pick, Stu. You definitely had us covered for batshit this week. So
Hey, you can have Mark Twain as well. That's fine.
well, I really love the Mark. I hope Mark Twain jokes come back next season. The best line. We've had the same best line once or twice, maybe already this season. So I'm very interested to
I
hear.
bet we've got the same one.
I have an inkling that we might have the same one again. So do we want to try and do it simultaneously, or do you want to go first? Or
We know from experience that works horribly over Zoom.
oh yeah, we've had
So
this conversation before. Deja vu.
is it a till-in line?
No, it's a
We've
Boimler
got
line for
different
me.
lines. There we
No
go. Interesting.
way.
Well, let's have yours then.
I really would have thought we would be the other way around with these characters as well. But yeah, mine was the Boimler line where he says, actually, just as the feathers are being ruffled, I'm going to have to start over with a new therapist, aren't I? I enjoyed that Boimler moment.
He says it's so deadpan, doesn't it? Like resigned is.
Yeah.
He's gonna
Everyone's
die.
worst
Got to find
nightmare.
a new
Yeah.
therapist.
So, what was your Tallinn line, Stu?
I believe the only response in this situation is Cerrito Strong.
Yeah, good
Got
pick.
me.
Yeah.
It got me. It doesn't have to be a funny line.
I believe I
Yeah,
speak for
that
us
got
all,
me.
Captain, when I say to hell with our orders. Yes, it was in it was in the long lineage of great Star Trek. Ignore the bosses moments. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So there we go. Ooh, but again, so many lines we could have picked. I think the fact that we have picked so often the same line, that's quite interesting. But yeah, absolutely fantastic episode overall. Like I said, I would have preferred a bigger build to where it went, but yeah, absolutely fantastic. Really looking forward to season 5. You mentioned about Tendy's the cliffhanger.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes. I think it will be an interesting. It's going to be a really interesting change in dynamic, at least for a short while, having Tandy off the ship. And I presume, as we know, Tallinn is meant to feature more heavily next season. I suspect that will start with her almost taking the place of Tandy, at least for a little while she's off having her adventures on Orion. So yeah, excited to have that waiting to go. What do you think to that this year?
I thought the the expression on Tendy's face when she said, "You've got this," right at the very end. We are going to see. We've seen badass Tendy a few times now. I think we're going to see baddest ass, badassest. I don't know. Anyway,
The most badass Tandy
the most badass
ever.
Tendy, the tendiest Tendy.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're going to see in season 5. We're going to have quite a while to wait for season 5, though. Of course,
Sad
we've
face.
got yeah. In fact, we've only got one more series of Star Trek in the pipeline until the strike action and what have you is resolved. We've got the last episode of Discovery coming next year, but yeah.
The last season of Discovery, yeah. I'm really excited for it. I hope they get a really good send off, and I hope that they get a Discovery send off. I was a little bit nervous to see a comment from Jonathan Frakes where he said, "Yes, this last season of Discovery is really back and happening again, or back up to par or something. It's quite like First Contact." And I thought, I mean, actually, Jonathan, I think if you could have said anything that would make me worry about the last season of Discovery, it's those lines. So, so I really hope that they just get to go out in a way that works for that Star Trek franchise that has been, whether you've enjoyed it or not, I've really enjoyed it. I think everyone can appreciate it has been different for Star Trek in a way that that I think has been a real treat to get to watch the show go in the direction that it has. So yeah, just big fingers crossed for me that they get to go out on their own terms and in a way that reflects what the show has been up until this point, and the best of that. So what are your thoughts looking forward to that new season, Stu?
I'm not sure at the moment. My focus has been obviously most recently on Stranger Worlds and Lower Decks. Yeah, I need to give it a lot of thought as to kind of what my hopes for it are. I'd like to think that Frakes' comment is in the context of the final season will be to Discovery what First Contact was to the Next Generation.
I think that it would be offering him a very generous interpretation of his words, but I share your wish that is the meaning there.
Let's hope that's what he meant. We'll see. We'll see. But we haven't done talking about Lower Decks yet. I mean, we have
No.
today, but viewers, we will be back next week and we're going to be ranking our favorite episodes from number 10 through to number 1 of our favorite episodes of this season of Lower Decks. I think picking number 10 is going to be the hardest.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be a tough list to put together. There's not much in it between the best and the worst this season. There was an excellent season of Lower Decks, and picking apart the little differences in quality between them is going to be an interesting exercise. Particularly looking forward to seeing how many of the slots are the same for us and how many are different.
Yes, and why?
And why? Definitely. Yeah, that's the important thing.
That's it. In the meantime, though, viewers, we'd love to hear your favorite moments, your worst moments, and your most batshit moments, and of course, your favorite lines from this episode of Lower Decks. So make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, get those notifications so you don't miss future streams. In the meantime, peace and long life.
Live long and prosper.